Hello, thanks for joining us for our Wednesday webinar. We're going to be talking about some common disaster scams, obviously following up our hurricane that we had come through here about 2 weeks ago. So we want to make sure we're giving you guys some information that will be helpful in the following weeks to come. And here at the South Carolina Department of Consumer Affairs, we know kind of these times are going to be stressful and they can bring about some confusion, and we just kind of want to give you some information that may be able to help you out. I know a lot of times with situations like this, you may feel like you have to act quickly to fix these problems, and these are hopefully going to be some steps that will help you make wise decisions in these stressful times. So now I kind of want to get into a little bit of our main topic here, and that's the common post-disaster scams, things that typically pop up, in the days and weeks that are following emergency situations like this. And again, kind of one of the things that we know from history with these types of things is scammers are going to act like government agencies like FEMA, like Emergency Management Division, things like that. So we really want to encourage people to kind of know the signs of these types of imposter scams that pop up there. And one of the bigger ones are just kind of these fake offers of state and federal aid. The big thing to learn or to know when it comes to these types of scams is to just know that federal and state workers do not solicit or accept money. And FEMA and the Small Business Administration will never charge survivors for applying for disaster assistance, for inspections, or to help you complete those applications. Again, they're government services. They've already been paid for with tax money, so there's no need to give these people money or personal information like financial account numbers, things like that. And in some cases, following a disaster, there may be situations where some kind of phony property inspector comes by. So again, kind of the big things with that are just know that FEMA inspectors aren't going to ask you for money. They're not going to ask you for your social security number and those personal identifying types of information like that. And if a housing inspector is out, FEMA's housing inspectors are never going to charge you a fee to inspect your property. And just again, no government disaster assistance official is going to call you and ask for your personal financial account information. We've got some phone numbers here. If you're getting these phone calls or somebody's coming over to your house, we always tell people you can always ask for identification from them. You get those things that would help you pinpoint that they are real. And if you have any kind of doubt about whether they're legit or not, if they're on the phone, or even if they're at their house, you can get them to kind of step away for a bit. And then you can call that FEMA helpline. That number's right there on the graphic. But you can call them and kind of report the incident, ask them further questions about what's going on, who they have in the area, and things like that. Another thing to kind of keep in mind is there are cases where there's fake insurance claims, people that are either coming out again in person, or a lot of times they're on the phone and they'll call, ask about a specific insurance claim or policy. And a lot of times they don't really have a whole lot of details. They're asking you for those policy numbers and things like that. So really kind of our big warning with that is if somebody's calling you, don't give out any personal information or agree to any payment until you can verify that that call is legitimate. Again, if they're calling asking you about a policy, they should have that information about that policy and that claim already if they're who they're saying that they're with. If they're with your insurance company, they should already know those details about your insurance policy. So again, hang up and contact either your insurance agent or the company directly using the numbers that you have on your account or your statements, things like that. If you've got to go to their website, the Department of Insurance also has some of those direct phone numbers that will get you in touch with those claim adjustment people as well. So you can use that resource to verify phone numbers and things like that too. But again, just kind of keep in mind, contractors and home improvement companies may actually be calling you to claim, your insurance information, stuff like that. So just kind of know the signs of how those improvement companies and those places work. But just kind of watch out for those people who are claiming to be part of your insurance provider. You never want to give those policy numbers, coverage details, personal information out there whenever you're encountering those folks. Again, if they're who they say they are, they should have some of that information already. Kind of our number one rule to keep in mind with all of these types of things is you don't want to give any of your personal or financial information to a person whose identity you cannot verify. I know a few years ago I had a tree fall on my home, and you have lots of different folks calling you, either from the insurance company or those different companies that they've hired to provide those services. And again, they should know a lot of these details when they're calling. So they would have all that information about your account and where you live and all that information. So they should have a lot of details that they can provide you, and that you shouldn't be just providing it to anybody who calls you and claiming that they'll be able to help. And home repair scams are kind of one of those things that may pop up, when we have these types of disasters and this types of destruction that's out there. Kind of the thing that, we all kind of worry about are some of these kind of shady contractor situations, or, people are coming out and claiming that they're going to offer help, and they're really not legitimate. They're not who they say they are. But it's just kind of important to keep in mind, especially with contractors. They can be real in some cases. In some cases, they can be fake, and they may be contacting you either on the phone or showing up knocking on your door. In some cases, they may be offering deals, maybe roof repairs, window replacement, or things like that. And they may be sending you ads in the mail too. Just kind of keep in mind, again, that you want to hire those reputable people if you're bringing somebody over to your house. So we're going to give you a little bit of information or things like that to watch out for, but really kind of the big things, just kind of, if you're in doubt, you want to contact, again, you want to contact FEMA if they're pretending to be FEMA, but if you're seeing these suspicious things, you might need to contact your local law enforcement, or you can also let us know here at the South Carolina Department of Consumer Affairs, especially if you're getting phone calls, things in the mail that may seem a little shady. So here's just kind of some quick scenarios about how home repair scams may work. And a lot of times, they may show up at your house and kind of offer you some kind of discounted deal. A lot of cases, they'll claim there's leftover materials from another job. They'll say they're in the neighborhood, did some work down the street, and they have those materials left over, and you can get a deal if you agree to let them do the work right then and there and agree to do that. They may also, again, kind of ask you to act quickly. Again, they want you to make those decisions right then and there, and they want you to make a decision without time to think about it, without time to really consider the options that you have available. And they do that because they want to take advantage of the time crunch that you probably feel like you're under. If you've got, especially like roof damage or damage with a tree falling on your property, you're probably at this point ready to get it taken care of. So that kind of pressure to make you act and do something right away is that red flag of, either a scam or a bad business practice possibly. And with situations like this, they'll likely ask you to pay cash, and they'll want a full payment up front. And if you go through with these types of process, here's some things that could happen next. They may run off with your money and never really make the repairs that you've given them the money for. So they're taking your money and not doing anything. Or in some cases, they may do shoddy repairs and kind of make things worse. We hear about this sometimes with those things with like driveway repairs and things like that, where somebody might come out and pour concrete or surface level in, for a driveway repair, and what they've done really just makes the problems kind of worse in a few days. So that's kind of one reason not to rush into these types of situations. And also kind of be cautious too if there's questions where they're trying to get you to take out a loan to be able to afford the improvements. Really kind of take a step back and think about the situation, and don't rush into it if there's somebody who's wanting you to get a loan for these improvements, because the financing could be a bad deal. It might not be something that you want. It may even kind of put your home in danger of a lien, something like that too. So just kind of watch out for those types of things. And again, it's kind of what I mentioned just a second ago. You don't want to realize that the contract you've signed is actually putting a lien on your home in order to pay for those repairs. So again, just kind of get a good understanding of everything that's being put out in front of you, and don't make those rash decisions that might actually make matters worse for you. So what should you do when you're getting these types of situations? The best advice, we say this for a lot of different types of scams, is just take your time. Kind of know that that's probably not what you're thinking about right now if you've got a lot of damage and stuff at your home, but really time's kind of that best advice that you can do. Time's your friend. You don't want to rush into those situations. You at least want to take a second and think about what you're doing. And if they're asking you to send cash or wire money, take a step back as well. That's a good sign that it's a scam. And if you need financing to repair or make those payments for repairs, you can always talk to your bank or a lender that you trust for making those types of decisions about financing and seeing kind of what's available as well. And if you need to make repairs, one of the things that you should do is check with people you trust. You want to talk to your neighbors, your friends, coworkers, kind of see what types of situations they may have had, see if there's somebody that they would recommend. You really just want to shop around the best you can. And once you find those companies, we encourage people to get 3 estimates if it's possible. It's just kind of a good number to kind of understand what you're paying for and what the services are. So you want to get multiple estimates. Again, we kind of recommend at least 3 before you decide on who you want to use. And you can also ask them for references. You want to get their proof of license. It's also kind of worth pointing with licenses. There may be, depending on what type of contractor that you're looking for, there may be licenses that they need for your town or your county government. So you can ask for those proof of licenses. You can also call your county or your city council. Usually they have some type of licensing division, but you can kind of get with them, see if there are requirements for contractors in those areas, and make sure that the person you're hiring has those. And again, that just kind of gives you that extra step to know that the person you're hiring is legitimate. And you'll also want to ask them about any type of insurance that they have. And again, that's just going to kind of protect you in case something goes wrong with the process of them making those repairs at your house. And one of our resources that we kind of encourage folks to take advantage of is the South Carolina Department of Consumer Affairs Background of Business page, and that's going to let you look up licenses with state agencies. And you can also use this resource to search complaints that have been filed with us. Kind of mentioned that a little bit at the beginning, but you can go to that and see if our agency has a good bit of complaints filed against that contractor or not, and that will give you a good resource to take advantage of. And one other thing you might want to do if you're looking to hire somebody and you're not too familiar with them, you may also want to search online for that company's name, just kind of see what comes up. Sometimes on social media, you can just put their name in, see what other people have said about places. Kind of keep some of that as a grain of salt in some terms, because those types of things can be faked with scammers taking advantage of, making fake websites and fake reviews and things on social media. But really kind of the point is you want to go online, you want to search for the company's name, and you might even want to put the words scam or the words complaint after it and just kind of see what types of things are out there. And that will kind of give you a better idea of what's going on with that company and if it's somebody that you want to hire to do those expensive repairs. And once you've decided on somebody, you want to get things in writing. And you want to make sure that you've read and understand a contract before you sign it. You don't want to just take their word for it. So you want to make sure both you and the contractor have signed it. If there's any questions that you might have, you want to, make sure you've worked those things out before you've signed that piece of paper over and given it back to that person. And kind of the other piece of advice with that is don't start that work until you have signed that contract and both of you have signed it again. And again, that's just going to kind of give you that extra protection if something does go wrong. If something happens, You want to have that contract so it's not just your word against theirs, and it's going to give you those protections. And kind of our other piece of advice with this, just kind of remember it's your money. You get to decide how you spend it and who you hire. So again, keep those things in mind and don't rush into any decisions that you might be needing to make. Some of the things that we encourage people not to do, send cash. I'm not sure, I can't remember if I've got it on here, but one thing you can do is just make those payments, partial payments until all of the work is done. That's one good thing to do, but you don't necessarily want to send cash, wire money. That can be signs of scams. Again, scammers love these types of payments, and it's usually because they can just take advantage of it. And once you kind of give this money over in these forms, they can really take advantage of it and be gone. So gift cards, of course, those are one of our familiar methods of payments that scammers typically ask for. Gift cards, cryptocurrency. A lot of those cryptocurrency ATMs are also kind of one of those things that scammers enjoy, and they like all these types of payments again because they're not always that easy to track, and they know that once they get access to this type of payment, they can take off, and there's not much that you can do to get that money back. So anything you can do to kind of make that trail with these types of payments would be what you want to do. You might want to write a check or use your credit card, those types of things if you're needing to make large scale payments. And if your home needs an extensive amount of work, you might need to find a new place to stay in the meantime. So we want to kind of warn people about some rental scams that might be out there, and just kind of our best tips for things that, after a disaster, anytime when you've got to look for a place to stay in a quick amount of time, kind of the best practices would be to make sure you talk to the person. I would say face to face is kind of the best way. And you want to do that just so you know they're real. We know that scammers can kind of either hijack realty listings and real estate listings, or they can create fake ones. Sometimes they'll even create rental listings using properties that aren't actually up for rent. So you kind of want to make sure that you're going and talking to these landlords in person. And you also want to make sure that you've toured the property, you have access to it, and you know kind of what you're getting into, and you know that the property is available for rent. And kind of our other advice with these types of things would be to not pay security deposits or rent before you've seen the property and you've actually signed that lease. And again, as always, with everything, we always say get as much in writing as you can. You want to make sure that you're reading those contracts carefully and you understand everything in it before you sign it and give them any type of payment. And again, we kind of mentioned this just a second ago. Be aware that these hijacked rental and real estate listings can be out there. So you want to just kind of make sure you're taking steps to verify that things are real. If you're doing a lot of online searches, you might want to try to look at several different places, and a lot of times you can see repeat wordings on a lot of listings, or see the same things pop up in different places, and they may have different phone numbers on things. So you want to just kind of take a look at some of those signs that these listings may not be what they're actually claiming that they are. One of the best tools you can do is search online for the name of the property owner or the rental company, if it's a company that is listed on those online searches. So again, do the names of these on the online search, whatever search engine you like to use, put the word scam, put the word complaint, look for those types of things. And, a lot of times you'll just kind of get a good feel of what type of landlord the person may be, or even if, like I said, there's a sign that something's not quite right. And again, you never want to pay deposits or rent or anything like that before you've seen the property and that you've signed the lease. And we know that a variety of kind of different imposter scams pop up after these types of disasters. And kind of the common characteristics of a lot of these are they're going to use well-known names. They're going to use names that you know, names that you trust. And a lot of times that's government agencies, charities, or businesses. It's really kind of hard to know all the different types of people or groups that they may kind of pretend that they are, but just kind of know that they're going to rely on those well-known names or things that kind of stick out to you as somebody that you probably think is trustworthy. And that's usually who they try to pretend. So again, a lot of times it's FEMA, SCEMD might be one, or some popular charities that people give to, or they'll pick names that are kind of similar to some of those types of groups. So really just kind of keep an eye on that and know that they can fake profiles on social media, especially. They'll create fake websites in some cases. Phone numbers can be spoofed, obviously. We all get phone calls from numbers that aren't exactly, what it says it is on the caller ID, but just kind of keep in mind that scammers are going to try to spoof any of these things that they can, and they're going to use that to take advantage of you and trick you. So again, that kind of goes back to our number one rule of not giving away that personal information or financial information from somebody who contacts you out of the blue like that. You always want to take extra steps to verify that people are who they say they are. And one of the things that happens in cases like this are utility scams. In some situations, they may even call and ask for bank account information. They're going to claim that they can reimburse you for a loss of service. So we all probably lost power for a day or two, if not more. I know some people are just getting it back even this week after the storm, but one of the claims that some of these utility scammers often come up with is that they can get you money back for all of those days that you didn't have service. So they'll promise to get you some money, but all you've got to do is give your bank account information over. Or they may even call and say that there's been some kind of system error, computer error that's happened with their utility, and they're going to need all those personal details from you, all those personal account information from you in order to restore service to you, or in order to get that account kind of going back up and running properly. Just kind of keep in mind any phone calls about those types of errors, and they're going to be asking you for all those payment information and things like that. And just kind of think about it. If they're your legitimate utility, they probably have your payment information already. If you're already paying that bill once a month to them, they know how you pay that normally, and they can take those steps to either get that any funds that they might need from that account that way, or if they need to, give you payments back, they have access to your account already and can put that credit on that bill for you already. So there's no need for you to give those types of details to them. And in some cases, if you've got power running again, they may even threaten to leave your utilities either off or to cut you off until you pay them. So just kind of keep in mind, sometimes those are the threats that they'll use. They'll either say they're not going to hook you back up until you pay, or that they'll cut your power off if you don't pay them. Just kind of know those aren't the way these utilities work, especially with leaving you shut off. There's no reason you would have to pay them directly on the street or at your house in order to get your service back up. So anytime somebody's demanding that you give them a payment to get you back up and running, that's going to be a scam. And of course, real utilities aren't going to ask you for gift cards, cryptocurrency, or wire transfer. Again, they're going to use those normal payment methods like you do every month. So just kind of keep that in mind too. And again, they always have that information. They can access your accounts that way. Anytime anybody calls, they should have a lot of those details about your payment methods and all that already, and your account numbers and things. So just kind of keep that in mind as well. And if you're getting any of these types of calls or solicitations at your house, you can always contact your utilities customer service center. I've got some of the ones that are kind of common across our state here on the screen, but like I said, usually you've already got some type of way that you're paying them anyways. You probably either get a paper bill every month, or they shoot you an email. You probably, if you're like me, you have those payment websites and apps and things already bookmarked in your phone or on your computer. So really just kind of use those things that you've already got those relationships with them. So you probably already have those phone numbers somewhere, either in their app or on their website or something too. But if you've downloaded the presentation for today, we've got those phone numbers listed in that for you, so you can take advantage of that if you need help getting in touch with your customer service for those utilities. And this is kind of our advice for these kind of spoofing and imposter scams in general. You know, it's always good advice, hang up on cold callers that make you feel uncomfortable. I'd also kind of add, you may not even want to answer your phone if you're getting a lot of calls from numbers that you don't recognize. You know, we always tell people you can let those things go to voicemail, and if it's somebody that you actually need to talk to, they'll leave you a voicemail. So, you know, not just hang up on them. You may also want to think about not answering the phone altogether with some of these phone numbers that are coming in there. I know sometimes that can be a little stressful, especially if you're waiting on insurance providers who may be calling you from different numbers at different times. So that may not always be the best advice during this type of situation, but just kind of keep in mind that if you're getting these calls that make you uncomfortable for what they're asking you for, hang up. And again, you don't want to give out that insurance or that bank information to just anybody who calls you. Again, if they're who they say they are, they probably have some of those details about you already. So really just kind of take those steps to protect your information. And when possible, you want to initiate contact using information on official websites or using information you know is real. So again, it kind of goes back to those statements that you might have either from your insurance provider or your utility or kind of whoever that might be for that type of service. You want to use those phone numbers that you use in a normal situation. And again, if you're having trouble getting in touch with those insurance companies, things like that, Department of Insurance does have that information on their website to kind of help you be able to get in touch with those claim adjusters. So they have that information on their website. That might be a good resource for you as well. But you really want to stick to those official websites and that information you know is real. Again, things that are probably already on those statements that you get in a normal month. And if you're considering donating to charity, we've got a little bit of information for you that might help you avoid some scams that can be out there this time of year. Not necessarily this time of year, but after situations like this. Again, our biggest piece of advice is just don't give out personal information to people who are soliciting donations kind of randomly or out of the blue. Just kind of watch out for those times where people are coming to you with that type of request, asking for bank account information, phone numbers, addresses. You just don't want to assume that everything that's out there is legitimate, especially on social media or crowdfunding sites. Just know that everything isn't always legitimate out there. Tell people with crowdfunding sites, kind of the best advice with them is to stick to people that you probably know. If it's somebody through your church or through your community group or somebody that you have a personal relationship with somehow, if it's a friend or a longtime colleague or something, some of those on crowdfunding sites can be legitimate. You just kind of know that everything that's out there isn't always, being checked out. It isn't always kind of what they claim they are. So it's good advice to kind of keep in mind, especially as you start hearing some of these stories that kind of pull on your heart a little bit, might make you want to think about donating. So you also kind of want to just think about that too. Be careful with charities that are pressuring you to donate quickly. If it's a legitimate charity, those needs are still going to be there in a few days. So just kind of take your time again with those types of things. Anybody who tells you you've got to donate now, it's probably not who they say they are, or at least their charity probably isn't doing as good of work as they claim to be doing if you have to donate right now. So you can usually take your time with those and just kind of think about the situation before you give that money over. And again, kind of our best advice for this type of thing is stick to those trusted, well-known charities that we all kind of see those names out whenever these big types of events happen. The South Carolina Emergency Management Division, again, is great resources. They've got a little part on their website with information about volunteering and donating. So those are people that they know are out in the community doing work. So those might be something that you want to stick to organizations like that. And again, it's just kind of people you know, people you trust, you want to stick with them would be kind of the big advice with that. As always, don't donate with gift cards or cryptocurrency. Those are usually scammers asking for those types of payments. And another good resource to use as well is the Secretary of State's website, and that's going to let you know if a charity is registered in our state. They have financial requirements that they have to be able to provide to the Secretary of State if they're legitimate charity in our state. So you might want to check on their website and kind of see those details that they have there. And they've also got a phone number that you can call and get that information as well from them. So again, those numbers are right there on the screen, but if you've downloaded the presentation, you can go back to that later and double check those types of informations. And as always, our best kind of advice, or some of our good advice, is search for these things online when they come up. If it's, especially somebody that you're not that familiar with, you can always search the word scam and complaint with the names of these groups. And you kind of want to get an understanding of how they say that the money is going to be used, what it will go towards, and things like that. They should be able to provide some type of spending information about their charity too, just kind of what all their resources are that's available and what that money goes towards. Just kind of make smarter decisions about where your money is going. And of course, you don't want to give out personal information. If they're asking you for a lot of things that they don't need, for you just to give them 20 bucks, take a step back and say, well, I'll give this donation to somebody else, to another group that I'm sure could use it. So just kind of keep an eye out for the types of things that they're asking you for, and see, if it's really some type of information that they would actually need for their charity. We've got some of our red flags, and I'm kind of always tell people we don't always know kind of what scammers are doing. They kind of change their tactics from time to time, and with different situations, they're very flexible and they're always coming up with new things. But while we don't always know what those scams are that are out there, we do know kind of these common red flags that are always prevalent in any variety of different types of scams. Again, one of our big things to keep in mind is just know that they like to pretend to be somebody that you know, somebody that you recognize, and they do that because they know if you recognize that name, you're probably more likely to trust them. So that's kind of why they use those fake names. They're going to pretend to be somebody that you trust, and they do that so you're more likely to give them money or information. And then there's times where they'll say there's a problem, or they'll say there's a prize involved. A lot of times with these types of situations involving disasters, it's more of a problem that they're kind of putting out there, and they're doing that to try to get you worked up. They know if you think you can only get your roof fixed in a certain time window, you're going to make a decision pretty quickly, and you're probably more likely to make bad decisions if you're doing that quickly. So they tell you that there's a problem, so they get you excited, they get you worked up, and you're probably not thinking straight. And then you're going to make some decisions that you normally wouldn't do. So just kind of be a little cautious whenever there's some kind of problem or some kind of promise of a big prize that comes up, and just kind of know that they're trying to play with your emotions with that. And again, they're going to pressure you to act immediately, especially disaster times like this. You're probably tired of having your tree on your roof and you're wanting it to get taken care of quickly, or whatever the type of situation that you might be involved in right then and there. But scammers know that if they get you to act quickly, you're probably making those bad decisions. You're probably not thinking clearly, and they're rushing you. So just, again, time's your friend. Take a step back, and if the situation really calls for it, these things will be able to be resolved in a day or so. So you can always take a step back and think about it when your head's a little clearer. But again, it's those kind of things that they do to pressure you to act immediately that we really want folks to kind of keep an eye out for. And as always, scammers have certain types of payment that they like: gift cards, cryptocurrency, prepaid debit cards, again, kind of those Bitcoin ATMs, things like that they send people to. Sometimes it's wire money transfer services, things like that. So just kind of be cautious, anybody anytime somebody tells you you have to pay in a specific way, and especially if it's those types of payment that are hard to trace and hard to get your money back, you want to just kind of take a step back with those types of things. And as always, we have our free tools and resources that we want to share with folks. Multi-factor authentication is something that we encourage everybody to take advantage of. If your financial accounts have it available, please use it. You know, social media and all those types of things as well. We kind of say use it anytime it's available. And with multi-factor authentication, it's going to make it kind of twice as hard to get into your accounts. If somebody were to get that password in a security breach, or maybe you accidentally gave it to somebody or they got into your computer somehow, if you have multi-factor authentication, it's going to keep them out of those accounts and out of those different settings so that they can't take advantage of getting in there and getting your money or whatever, depending on what type of, you know, account that you're dealing with there. But you want to use things, usually it's set up so it's something you have, like a passcode that maybe is sent to your phone, or an authentication app, or it might even be something you are, like your fingerprint or your face scan. So really just kind of look at what's available and take advantage of it. Find something that is comfortable for you. We've got a couple of quick little examples here. Again, you can use something that's either a knowledge factor, like those little passcodes that are available. You can do pins, things like that. Sometimes you can have a little hardware that you plug into your computer to be able to get into an account. And it might be something that you are, like a fingerprint, your face scan, any of that type of stuff. And we encourage people to monitor their financial accounts, and a lot of times people can take a while before they're looking at those statements and things like that, but you can really take advantage of different services that are available to be able to kind of help you keep an eye on things. You can get those new login alerts if somebody's trying to get in to your accounts from a device that you don't know, or you can also set up some of your account alerts to let you know about spending habits. I know my bank offers one where I'll get a message anytime there's an online purchase, or you can set up dollar amounts. So if somebody spends like 50 bucks on a card, you get a message about it. You can set up things like that. Usually if you just go into the settings for those financial accounts, you can kind of figure out what type of alerts that they have available and find the ones that kind of best fit your situation or your needs and things that you like to get alerts about. They're a free tool, and they can really kind of help you monitor what's happening with those accounts and help you find problems quickly if something does happen. We encourage everybody to monitor their credit reports regularly. Kind of the rule has always been at least once a year to go to over your credit reports and kind of taking a look for those signs of identity theft. You want to make sure that everything's accurate on it. So you'll want to look and make sure your name is correct on it, that all the addresses listed are addresses that you've actually lived at, and any phone numbers that are on there or things that you recognize, phone numbers that you've used. I know my credit reports have some previous businesses that I've worked at where, you know, at some point when I filled out a loan for something, I must have used a phone number from, you know, that office as a way to reach me at my desk. So you just kind of want to go through that, and if you see any phone numbers that are listed, that they're ones that you actually recognize or things that you've used before. And we recommend annualcreditreport.com because it's the only site authorized by federal law. So there's federal guidelines for how they use your information. They're not going to sell it, kind of use those details in your credit report to solicit ads and stuff with you, or solicit accounts being created and things like that. So if you go to annualcreditreport.com, you'll have access to TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. While the law says you should get one a year, they are offering one free credit report a week. So you can go to that and monitor those fairly frequently. You probably don't need to look at it every week. That's a little excessive, but you can go to it anytime you're worried about, you know, something that might be out there. If there's a security breach or something like that that's been impacted involving your information, you can then go look at your credit reports for free and make sure that everything on it is accurate and all the accounts that are listed on it actually belong to you and aren't something that someone else has created in your name. And if you're finding the signs of identity theft, you might want to consider a fraud alert. Generally, that'll last for a year. You can get it extended. If there are situations where you are the victim of identity theft, you can get it extended for 7 years. But the fraud alert will last 1 year, and it's basically going to alert businesses that something's happened and that if they're looking at your credit report, they need to take extra steps to verify that it actually is you that may be applying for any loans or any credit cards, any things like that. You'll just place one call or go to one of the websites, Experian, TransUnion, Equifax. You just go to one of those credit reporting agencies and put the fraud alert in place, and they're going to notify the other two that that situation is kind of in place with your credit report file. And the thing that I encourage everyone to do is look at your credit reports and consider putting a freeze in place. And that is free to place, and it's also free to lift if you're in a situation where you need to lift it. But basically, it's going to stop anyone from accessing your credit report, and it's going to stop new lines of credit from being created in your name. So somebody wouldn't be able to go and create car loans, home loans, those types of services, wouldn't be able to open new credit cards in your name. So it's really going to put that protection in there to be able to stop you in case somebody else has information about you. They won't be able to open up those accounts in your name. And again, you can thaw it whenever you need to apply for new credit. So if you find yourself in a situation where you need to get a car loan or, something like that kind of unexpectedly, you put that thaw in place and it'll allow you to apply for new credit while that thaw is there. And you'll have to place this with each of the 3 credit bureaus. So you'll go, through Experian, TransUnion, Equifax, and you can put the freeze in place. You'll go to their websites and put it in place with each one of them. And it just takes a few minutes to do so with each one of them, but you do have to do it with each of those 3. And whenever you need to lift it, generally it takes a little bit under an hour. I think by state or federal law, rather, they have an hour to lift that for you if you go to their website or use the phone number. But basically what you can do is lift it while you need to open up those new lines of credits. And once you've kind of taken care of those situations, you can put that freeze back in place, and that will put that protection back there for you. And if you think you're the victim of identity theft, or you've seen one of these scams that's out there, dealing with these disasters, you can let our office know. We've got our phone number there on the screen. 803-734-4200 is the main office there with our 803 number. You can also use that 800 number that's listed in the bottom corner of the screen there. That number is only toll-free within South Carolina with the South Carolina-based number. So I also wanted to list the 803 number there for folks. And you can also go to consumer.sc.gov. We have our identity theft and our scam report forms on our website. You can go to that and let us know that something's happened. And again, we have an identity theft unit that can kind of walk through those processes with you, especially with identity theft, and go through their checklist, see what happened and steps that you might need to take to minimize any damage. And again, we do have free resources available on our website. We have a good number of publications that are available either to download, or we do send them printed versions to people in the mail. You can request those by going to consumer.sc.gov. Some of our popular ones are the Ditch the Pitch Scam Prevention Guide. We just updated that in August. And we also have our Identity Theft Prevention Guide, our Credit Report Guide as well. And then if you've downloaded those attachments, we have our Recovering from a Disaster available on that. I believe we actually just ran out of the hard copies of that book, so we're working to get those reprinted. We've sent thousands of those across the state to different groups in the past few days. So that is one that is available out there. A lot of the different community days that are going on across the state, those have been given out to those folks as well. So those should be available to you, but we definitely have it on our website to you, and we're working to get more of those in stock as well. I'm going to look at some of the questions that may be coming in here in just a second, but I just kind of wanted to give you an opportunity to put those in if you have not. And I also wanted to remind you about our upcoming shred events. We'll have one on Monday, October 14th. That'll be 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the North Charleston Coliseum. We set up there in parking lot A. If you've been to our shred event out there before, that's the same little spot that we're normally set up at that one, at least the last couple of years. Again, that's at the North Charleston Coliseum on Monday. Then on Thursday, October 24th, we'll be here in Columbia at Shandon Baptist Church. And then later in the month, we'll be in Anderson at the McCants Community Campus, working with the Anderson County Seniors Program there. But again, those dates are on our website as well if you need that information later. We hope you can join us for another Wednesday webinar, and we hope to see you soon. And thank you very much for joining us today. Goodbye.